Here is a number sellers rarely put on the sales page. When a well-run course operator publishes their refund rate, it usually comes in under 2%. Fewer than 2 buyers in 100 ask for their money back. That single figure is doing a lot of quiet work because it tells you what people do after the hype wears off and the dashboard login actually arrives. So we pulled the receipts on refunds. How often do people really claw their money back on a digital product? What makes them do it? And what does that number reveal about the thing you are about to buy? Start with the baseline, because the gap between physical and digital is enormous. Physical e-commerce runs hot on returns. Roughly 17 to 18% of online orders get sent back, against 8 to 10% in store. People order 3 sizes, keep 1, ship 2 back. Digital products cannot work that way. You cannot undownload a video library, so the refund is the only lever, and the friction is higher. Course sellers who track it carefully report rates under 2%, and some report closer to 1 refund for every 200 sales, about half of 1%. The honest red is that for a competently sold digital product, the typical refund rate sits in the low single digits, not 0, but nowhere near the wall of returns physical retail lives with every day. Now, what counts as a normal refund rate and what counts as a warning? There is an old fault line in the direct response world. One famous copywriter argued a good marketer should be running roughly 7 to 15% refunds, the logic being that if your refunds are too low, you are not selling hard enough. The opposing, larger camp treats that as a confession, not a target. In one survey of marketers, only 2 of 97 respondents sided with the sell hard view. Their working consensus was blunt. 2% refunds is acceptable, 5% is high, and 7% is where something is wrong with the product or the promise. So the 7 to 15% the hard sell crowd calls healthy is the exact range the rest of the industry reads as a red flag. Same number, opposite verdict. And the difference is whether the marketing wrote a check the product could cash. So what actually makes someone ask for the money back? Strip out genuine product failure and 3 patterns do most of the work. The first is buyer's remorse. The purchase was emotional, made at 11 at night off a countdown timer, and by morning the spell has broken. The second is the expectation gap. The page promised a transformation and delivered a folder of videos. The third is the quietest and most common. I'll never use it. The slow realization that the thing will sit unopened, so the refund window becomes a last chance to undo a mistake. Notice what links all 3. None are really about whether the content is good. They are about the distance between what the marketing implied and what the buyer found when they logged in. That is why refund rate behaves less like a quality score and more like a marketing honesty score. Now the line most buyers never think about until they cross it, the difference between a refund and a chargeback. A refund is a request to the seller. You ask, they agree, the money comes back the same way it left. A chargeback goes around the seller entirely. You call your card issuer, dispute the charge, and the bank yanks the funds back by force, often weeks later, and the seller eats a dispute fee on top. To the buyer, they feel like 2 routes to the same outcome. To the seller, they are not, because the card networks count chargebacks and punish them. And the numbers are smaller and more dangerous than refunds. Across e-commerce, card not present chargeback rates run roughly 0.6% to 1%. For digital goods and subscriptions, the rate sat near half of 1% in 2024, but had jumped about 59% in a single year, from roughly 1/3% before. Refunds are common and quiet. Chargebacks are rarer, louder, and they leave a mark. Here is why that small chargeback number terrifies operators while a much bigger refund number does not. The card networks run monitoring programs with hard thresholds, and crossing them is existential. Under Visa's dispute monitoring, a merchant lands in the standard program near 100 chargebacks and a ratio around 0.9%, and in the excessive tier near 1,000 chargebacks and 1.8%. MasterCard's excessive program triggers around 100 chargebacks and a 1.5% ratio. Once flagged, the fines stack, commonly $50 per chargeback rising to $100, and stay in the program long enough and you lose your payment processor entirely, which for a digital business is a death sentence. So read the asymmetry. A seller can absorb a 5% refund rate and stay in business. A 1% chargeback rate can end it. This asymmetry explains 2 things buyers find baffling. First, the no refund policy that gets waved away the moment you push back. A hard no refund term is mostly a filter. It stops casual remorse refunds, but it does almost nothing against a chargeback. because your card issuer does not care what the policy says when you dispute a charge for a service not delivered as described. That is why a seller who swore no refunds will suddenly offer one the instant you mention your bank. Second, the friendly fraud surge. First-party fraud. Buyers disputing charges they actually authorized, often after consuming the product, has climbed to roughly a third of all reported fraud in 2024, up from about 15% the year before. So the guarantee you are reading is rarely a promise. It is a negotiating position, set by which lever the seller most fears you pulling. So here is how to read a refund number and use the guarantee you are handed. First, the read. A published refund rate in the low single digits, under 3%, is a quiet sign the marketing roughly matched the product. A rate near 7% or higher, on the rare occasion a seller admits it, is the product telling on its own sales page. But be just as wary of a suspiciously perfect record. A 0% refund rate alongside a hard no refund policy is not telling you the product is flawless. It is telling you remorse has nowhere to go, which is a feature for them, not for you. Second, know your real lever. The FTC's cooling off rule, the 3-day cancellation right people half remember, does not cover online purchases at all. It is for in-person and door-to-door sales. Your genuine protection on a digital buy is the card dispute, available when a service was not delivered as described. So treat a stated guarantee as the floor, not the ceiling. Read the refund window before you buy. Screenshot the promises the page makes, and know the chargeback is the lever the seller quietly fears most. The refund rate is a confession the seller didn't mean to make. Learn to read it, and you will know what the sales page won't say. End of report.